Suppose I'll turn on my camera here. Alrighty. Let's get started. So welcome everyone to week 2 of the mindset upgrade. So today we're going to start with a short little movement session. Anthony, if you're good at taking that, five minutes or so, do the trick. And then we'll go into any questions you guys have about this week. So this one, remember, is all about light and its effect on our sleep. So I sent an update earlier today on some of the science behind it and some other tools that you can add to your sleep toolkit as well. So this is just a chance to ask questions, collaborate with ideas that work or don't work, and just to see how things are going generally. So we'll have Anthony here. We're gonna start off with a short little movement break, get our brains flowing a little bit, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So take it away, Anthony. So you're welcome to turn on your videos.
All right.
But don't have to by any means. It's just
all right.
fun seeing people.
Sounds good. Let's start out with just some arm circles here. So 10 arm circles forward, and then go 10 arm circles backwards, each side. Nice job. Switching sides once you get done with 10 forward. Then make sure to get the backward in. And as you get done with that, let's go into some neck rolls. So just rolling one way. We're gonna do 5 one way. Keeping that chin tucked as best as we can. Once you get done with 5 one way, go the other way for 5. All right, quick break here. Next, we'll go into just a quick quad stretch. So kicking one leg back, grabbing that ankle, squeeze your glute, lock your core, try to keep your balance. Just holding here for about 15 seconds. Nice job. Go ahead and switch sides here. Really squeeze that glute, lock that core. Then shake it out. All right, we can go ahead and get started with the Q&A session here. Quick little stretch break.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Anthony.
Yep.
So I guess to start off, I'll just do a little overview of this week. I've sent this in emails already, but just to speak it out loud here, then you guys can respond back with any questions. So it sounds very simple. I've gotten a few emails that are like, so what are we doing? And it's really that easy. So it's going out when the sun is rising. So like 30 to 60 minutes. I think I said maybe in 90 minutes, I may have said, after waking and viewing the rising sun for 5 to 10 minutes or so. And so what that does is it sets your circadian rhythms so that you begin to become alert during the mornings. So we have an increase in cortisol. So remember, cortisol is not just bad, not just stress. Cortisol is actually alertness. So we want to be alert in the morning. So that sun increases our cortisol and it sets our melatonin. So some people take melatonin as a supplement for sleep. It sets the melatonin clock to be released in the evening at the appropriate time. So that's the cortisol and melatonin are sort of a antagonistic relationship. When one goes up, the other goes down, and vice versa. So that's what viewing the sun does for you in the morning, and then has a similar effect in the evening. It's the certain wavelength that's emitted in the evening is different than the morning. So that wavelength that you see in the evening is really putting that melatonin into effect, allows you to relax, so decrease cortisol, increase melatonin, fall asleep more easily. So hopefully that's a general overview that makes sense to you guys. It's light, like we always hear, don't drink caffeine in the evening. I think a lot of us know the effects of that. We have don't look at screens in the evening, and we can talk more about that if you want. But it's not very common to think about the effect of light, specifically sunlight, and how that affects our biology. So it is arguably the most important behavior you can do for your sleep. And I would argue sleep is the most important pillar for our overall health. Because if you aren't recovering, you're not thinking clearly, you're not physically performing as you'd like to in your workouts, etc. Your emotional health is disturbed. We can talk more about that if you like. So that's a general overview of how sleep or how light affects our sleep. And yeah, so that's that. Do you guys have any questions on that? Otherwise, I can sort of go through some of the numbers in this toolkit that I sent you and elaborate a little bit more on those. But I'll open it up to questions.
So I guess I have one. So do I need to like stand there and kind of look towards the sun, or if I'm like out exercising and the sun is on me, is that enough?
Yeah. So I think, yeah, the latter. So you don't,
Okay.
obviously you don't want to be looking into the sun where it's hurting your eyes, but just naturally the sun's going to get into your eyes, even if you're not intentionally looking at it. So yeah, you can be outside. And then with a question that might come up, but I just thought about it, is what if it's cloudy? So if it's cloudy or the winter, which is why the seasonal affective disorder is so prominent, and how that affects our mood. So with that, we just, like we always, well, my mom always said, even if it's cloudy, put on sunscreen. So the sun is still shining, even if it's cloudy. So you can go outside still and try to get that light in your eyes. You're just going to have to do it for longer. So like 20 minutes or so. And there's not like a perfect number for that either, but that's a general guideline. So yeah, good. Yeah, really good question. So another one common is, because sometimes, especially in the winter, it's cold. We don't want to go outside. I feel you there. So the question would be, can I look through a window at the sun? And although you get some of those photons, so those light chemicals, the amount of time you'd have to be viewing through a window is like 50 times longer. So meaning if we can do it, really try to view it without that barrier. Glasses are okay. Contacts are okay. Sunglasses aren't okay, because that's the goal. If you have a prescribed sunglass from your doctor, then keep doing that and consult with your doctor. But yeah, we really want to be viewing it just with our eyes, without a window in between us. Any other questions on that? So one thing with this behavior is we want to kind of set up our baseline. So viewing it 3 times in a row is really gonna get us into that good rhythm. And so therefore, if we miss a day, like if we're really busy or whatever, we have stuff going on and we can't go view the sun in the morning, we're probably going to be okay. So it's not like we need to fret over that, but trying to get back the next day as readily as we can. So really want to try to do it every day. If you miss a day, it's fine. Your rhythms are probably going to be intact as long as you have been doing it beforehand. So we don't want to create any panic, like, oh, I didn't get my morning sun. Like, it's probably going to be okay. Okay. So let's see, I'm kind of just going through my list here, seeing if there's any salient points here. So
Hey,
one
Sam.
topic, oh, go ahead. Yeah, Anthony.
Do you have any answer for why you feel alert like 1 hour before your bedtime?
Yes. So one reason is from a more evolutionary perspective, which is if we're back to our, tribal ancestors, when we are preparing to sleep, we need to set up our tribe and make sure our surroundings are safe, get everything in order before we go to bed. And so therefore we want a little increase in energy to get everything ready and set up. So that's kind of the reason for that hour increase in alertness right before bed. And so that's when a lot of us, myself included, will be like, oh, I'm not tired, I'm gonna go watch TV or do said behavior, usually in front of a screen. And so easier said than done, of course, but I think being mindful, like that's a natural part of this cycle that I was describing earlier, can be helpful of just, steadying the course. Like it's going to go away. I'm going to start to get sleepy, but to be expected.
I was kind of surprised by the caffeine one, to not do caffeine 8 to 10 hours before bed, and then even suggested 12 to 14. Like, I would love to know more about that, and if there's any suggestions, because I definitely drink coffee around 2 p.m. or whatever it is.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. So I'll preface what I'm about to say, which is we all metabolize caffeine differently. So some people are very sensitive to caffeine. Some people aren't sensitive to caffeine. First, before I say anything, so I'm not a doctor, so take all this with, I'm not a doctor. However, I've read the literature a fair amount, so I feel confident in talking about this. So there are just a few people who have the gene that can have coffee at, 4 p.m. and be fine. And so you might, and I'm not saying you directly, but you might think that you're sleeping fine, it's not affecting your sleep. It probably is. That being said, so the science of it is the half-life of caffeine is, I think 12 hours is what I said. So that means half of what you drink when you drink it initially is still in your system 12 hours later. So there's going to be some caffeine in your system. It's probably not going to disrupt your sleep a ton, but you do what you can. That's being super ideal, like perfectionist, and sometimes we need a little caffeine. So that's just giving the science. If you want more on that, I can send you some like articles on that of how that affects you at a more granular level. But I guess general rule of thumb, try to avoid caffeine in the afternoon as best you can. I would say
Good to know.
that-
Thank you.
Yeah, go. Yeah, definitely. Do you have a question, Deborah?
Yeah, no, not at this time. Thank you.
Sure. One thing on coffee as well. So I mentioned at the beginning, we have this natural increase in cortisol first thing in the morning. So because we have this natural increase in cortisol, becoming more alert, if we can avoid having our coffee or caffeine, whatever caffeine modality we're using, like until an hour into the day, that would be ideal, because we really don't need that caffeine right away, because like maybe again from like an evolutionary standpoint, we really needed that alertness first thing in the morning. And so having caffeine like as soon as you wake up probably isn't the best approach for the sake of our rhythms. So like a practice that you could try to implement is waiting an hour, and maybe in that time, if you're a real go-getter with your wellness, is drinking some water during that time instead, hydrating for the day. So that was something that I used to do all the time. Like I would prepare my coffee the night before. So when I woke up, I would just click it and have it like immediately. And I've noticed a decent change in my energy level throughout the day, and especially my ability to get to sleep at night. So perhaps worth checking out. All right. Let's see what else we got. So another sort of comment, it's almost trendy at this point, or at least it was a few years ago, is the idea of blue blockers, the blue blocker glasses. So with blue blockers, we actually want that sort of light during the day. So that blue light is actually what you get from that morning sun. So that's actually blue light. So we want that. We don't want to, instead of viewing our morning light, look at our phone first thing in the morning. That's not quite what I'm getting at here. But meaning like if you're wearing your blue blockers during the day, and I don't know if people do this, but they might, that's probably not the right approach, because you actually want that blue light during the day to keep your alertness at a good spot. What you don't want to do is view the blue light, so your screens, in the evening. So in the evening, I know people have work and are looking at screens, of course, but a good practice to start to implement is if you have blue blockers, wear it during the evening. But maybe more importantly, or just as importantly, is dimming your screens. So dim your TV, even dim your TV, dim your phone. I know some of the phones do it naturally now, that they can just sense the light in your room. So that is something I thought I'd suggest too. And then with the topic of light in the evening also is dimming your just overhead lights. So the overhead lights, your brain thinks that that's the sun, essentially, very generally, simply put. So if we have our overhead lights on at 10 p.m., we're not getting that melatonin release that I've described earlier, and we're increasing that cortisol. So when it starts to get to the evening time where you're wanting to relax, getting ready for bed, really dimming those, especially the overhead lights, ideally all lights, even if they're at like eye level, but especially those overhead lights, and dimming those and getting your brain and body into a more state of relaxation. Let's see. Any questions so far? Are these helpful? Are they interesting? Anything else to elaborate on so far? I mean, it is a very exhaustive literature, so I'm trying to do my best to get the most practical and applicable points out there, but it's by no means everything. Let's see. I think unless you guys have more questions or anything else I'd like to touch on, I think that's about it. Keep up the great work. Again, it's probably going to be like subtle effects. Like we're not going to, oh, I viewed light and now I feel like a superhero. I mean, you might do that. That'd be great. But it's more subtle. We're going to be able to relax more easily. Our alertness is going to be better throughout the day. Over time, you're going to have a pretty solid sleep schedule. And then, like I opened up the conversation with, sleep is probably the foundation of all health, emotional and physical. So I think this is a very underrated, maybe even unknown behavior that I wanted to share with everyone. That's why I made it the topic of a week. So cool. All right. Well, happy light viewing and happy good sleeping. Also, any questions, send us an email, target.fitness. Otherwise, we'll see you back here next Wednesday for another Q&A with the topic of the week. And see you guys later. All righty.